Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast. Today we're talking with Queen Allotey-Pappoe. Queen is the founder, CEO, and creative director of Queen Adeline, a sustainable fashion design brand in Lowell, Massachusetts.
You are the kind of person who wants to improve the lives of others, but you need to take pride in your everyday actions. You Are a Philanthropist believes that every act of goodwill deserves to be recognized as philanthropy. Each individual action you take impacts another's life. Believe that what you do makes a difference. So call yourself a philanthropist and start a ripple effect of generosity that boomerangs back to you. Go to youareaphilanthropist.com/shop. Style your outside to match your inside. Choose a t-shirt, hoodie, or bag to show how much you love giving to others. That's youareaphilanthropist.com/shop.
Hey y'all, I just want to remind you that I need you to subscribe, rate, and review to this podcast. If you're enjoying it and want more conversations like this and want to help people get more involved with philanthropy, please subscribe, rate, and review. I want to thank you to the people who have already rated this podcast 5 stars. Please click to rate it 5 stars. And here is some awesome reviews. I love hearing the different stories from a variety of people's personalities. We all can contribute with the strengths we have in making the world a better place for all of us to live in. Here's another one. I really enjoy this podcast. It's encouraging to see that I don't have to be a multimillionaire who created a philanthropic foundation to impact people. It's my small gifts of my time and resources that add up. I am a philanthropist. And here's another. There are opportunities all around at an early age to remind us to look out for each other. It's a lifelong journey of seeing the opportunities and acting in them. Thanks for a great reminder. Listeners, please do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and review right now so more people can hear more from us and learn more about philanthropy.
Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast with Jen Klein, a certified fundraising executive and philanthropic entrepreneur. This show is dedicated to empowering and inspiring you to make a difference in your community and our world. Jen believes all acts of kindness matter, and this show is designed to help you take pride in your everyday actions of improving the lives of others and making a change in the world. Now, here's Jen.
Queen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jen. I'm so excited and looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. I'm so excited to have you. We've known each other for a few years now. And one of the things that impressed me about you is your drive and passion for sustainable design. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your brand, Queen Adeline.
Fine. Thank you so much. And I have to say that I'm, like I said, elated to be here. I think the work you're doing is very important. So thank you for spreading the word about being generous and giving. Just back to myself. So like you said initially, I am the founder, creative director of Queen Adeline. And Queen Adeline is a sustainable wearable art fashion design brand that creates wearable art for the woman on the go. My vision was really to create wearable art for women who were busy and didn't have time to be present in their adornment in clothing. And I saw this gap as in my previous life, working in corporate and with offices and with people in offices. I would always go to meetings and I would see that women were in beige, black, and gray. There's nothing wrong with that. But I realized that most of them were just conforming to what was just there. And and there was no room for self-expression. And I would talk to these women, and I realized like they were like fireworks going on inside, and outside they just felt like it was very drab. And so I would always come in with my colorful clothing and very expressive artwork on myself. And they would ask me, they were very interested and wanted to know more about where I got my clothing, and they were work appropriate. And so fast forward, that led me to decide that I was going to make clothing for these women because they kept asking about it. And I was like, why is nobody making expressive clothing for women in the workforce? It feels like what is out there is just being relegated to black, beige, and gray. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think colors help to set the mood and set the day. And if we have women working so hard, we might as well help them to feel great about themselves. So that was the initial goal. Quickly, when I got into the industry, I realized that fashion was a big problem, not just here, but the whole world. Depending on who you ask, fashion is the number 2 pollutant to our environment. And when I found that out, second to the automobile industry, or like the mobile industry, and I decided that I couldn't be a part of this train wreck. And so my solution was really simple. What was the main component of fashion that was destroying our environment was the fast fashion, that things were being produced cheaply at the expense of our environment. And then there was this issue of landfill textile disposal, which all our clothing were being buried in landfills, which were not biodegradable. So in effect, we were polluting our environments just so we could look good for a second. And that was not sustainable. And so when I found that out, my mission was really simple: to make clothing that, one, first of all, will make women feel great about themselves so they could express themselves through color, through art. But most importantly, so that we could lower our impact on the environment by the choices we made by buying my clothing. And so in my work philosophy, my main aim is to reduce textile waste by making pieces that are timeless, that can be worn year round, so that they can be layered, and they can be layered on or off depending on the season of the year. That helps to reduce waste in our closets, because one of the ways that we are contributing to this pollution is just having so much, just consumption is out of control, and we have so much waste in our closets, and we just keep buying and chucking in landfills. So if I made pieces that could be worn year round, then that would reduce the amount of pieces that a woman could potentially have in her closet, and it would be useful. Secondly, I wanted to make pieces that were biodegradable. And so I made a commitment to myself to only make with natural fibers that would biodegrade in the earth. And I always used to say that should my pieces be buried in the ground, they would find themselves, they'll be at peace, and they'll be at home with the earth, because they are biodegradable and they would become one with the earth. So I always joke, my pieces will be fine with the earth and they will have no problems. But most important of all, I also wanted this piece to be a clothing line that would support craft and craftsmanship. So everything is handmade, and there's an ecosystem of makers that are supported through my work, so that there's that economic sustainability for art and artists in that whole ecosystem as well. Did I answer your question?
Yes, Queen. And I'm just in awe of you. First of all, our listeners can't see the beautiful scarf you have on right now that shows your art and your print, and but they can hear your passion and your reason and your mission statement. And I am very impressed with what I just learned and about the work that you do.
Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you.
One of the things I'm curious about is, what is your greatest source of inspiration? You talked a little bit about, your passion for helping women who are wearing kind of routine corporate clothing, as well as your passion for ethical and sustainable design. And I was wondering, where did this inspiration come from?
So I'm like a sponge. I pick a lot of things all over, but I can trace my passion to the very first women that I saw that I was in awe of. Growing up, I grew up in Ghana, where I was born, bred and buttered, as we would say back home in Ghana, Accra, Ghana. And as little as I could remember, we would go to the markets on Saturdays, and in the market, I was kind of entranced by the women in the market because as hard working as they were, because most of them were in the sun, the scorching sun in Accra, but they would be adorned, and it didn't matter whether they were well-to-do economically or not. Even if they were like in tattered clothing or like clothing that was worn, they still always would show up in their best, if you know what I mean. And so the market scene was very always picturesque for me. Like they either had a hat, a straw hat on, or like a wrapper, a whisker, or like a very fancy top. Like it looked fancy to me in my eye, because I was like, look at all these women on the market scene, like they're hustling, they're bustling, they're calling out to customers on the street to come buy, and they're hawking, and yet they look like they took time to be there, even if it was even a tattered piece of clothing. And so that scene always stayed with me, and that has always been my inspiration, especially considering that one of my passion is to empower women economically through entrepreneurship. And so marrying these two scenes, seeing women who had taken their own fate into their hands to be in the markets, to hawk their wares, and to be able to provide for their families economically, and seeing them show up in clothing like that has been a scene that's always stayed with me. And I come from a long line of working women. And so marrying that with that desire to see people actually live out their lives. My father always used to say that life is meant to be lived here on earth and not in the grave. And so just seeing people put on their best to show up just for the day. Tomorrow is not promised, but I believe that just showing up for the day was good enough. That has always been where my starter seed was, and over the years through my travels and being in different capacities, working with women and men as well, it just felt like that desire and that passion kept being fermented until it had risen, and it just had to be kneaded into something. So, yeah.
Wow, I was getting the chills as you were describing your passion. And I just love how beautiful you are inside and out, and the beautiful work you create. And I'm so impressed by you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background, about how you came from Ghana to here in the United States?
Sure. So I tell people I'm currently just a child of the world, and that's it. I was born, bred and buttered, like I said, in Accra, Ghana. I did my elementary, early formative years in Ghana, right through middle high school to my first degree in Ghana, University of Ghana, Legon. The journey was, I thought I was gonna be marching down the corridors of of the lawmaking arm of government, legislating and making policy for a better world, better Africa. Quickly, I decided my passion was leading me somewhere else. So I migrated to England, where I furthered my study in business in the United Kingdom, and lived for some time there, and then love came calling, and I had to move to the United States. One of us had to move, so I decided I had seen enough of England anyway, and so I was gonna move to the States to join my husband, and so moved to the United States. Got married, moved here, started a family, and then obviously I needed to figure out what my role was going to be in this new land and new opportunities, and how I could contribute to a better world. And so that's kind of a loose map of how I got to this destination. Yeah.
That's a beautiful story about someone who followed their heart and was open-minded to new mindsets and opportunities and travel, culture. And the more I get to know you and talk to you today, the more excited I am about who you are and what a good friend you are.
Oh, thank you, Jen.
And I'm curious for people out there who are everyday Americans and listeners from all over the world who are not quite sure what they could do and how they could contribute to making the world a better place. What would be your advice to them?
So I always tell people I am a selfish person, and I think a positive way to put it is I am a self-full person. And so I always say it starts with self. You can never give what you don't have. And so in order to give anything at all, you need to have that first. If you want to give joy, you should start with self. You should be joyful. If you want to give peace, you need to have your own personal peace. If you want to give your time, you need to make time for yourself in order to be able to give time. And so sometimes contributing to the world seems like a daunting task, but I always tell people you are part of the world. And so don't even think beyond you. Start with yourself first. What are the ways that you can help yourself so that you can show up a better person? Because if we all showed up better people, there will be no need for us to do any more work. So the most fundamental step to take in contributing to the world is start with yourself. What are the ways you can improve your personal life? What are the ways you can, and once you are done with yourself, what are the ways you can improve? Your world is your home, your immediate home. So what are the ways you can improve your home? What are the ways you can improve the people, if you are a parent, the people that you are raising, because they are going to go out in the world and they're going to multiply whatever you are raising into the world. And so start with that. And once you are able to be at a place where you're comfortable with that, then you can start with your community. How can you impact your community? And so I think that it is an inward journey that kind of spirals out into the world.
Queen, you could be a motivational speaker.
I have been told, and I do that sometimes.
I just love how you describe self-full. I don't think I've heard that before. And I know I'm writing a book called Giving is Selfish. And the reason why I believe giving is selfish is because it does feel so good to give.
Yeah.
I wrote in my book about the importance of treating yourself well so that you can treat others well. And I love the energy about what we're talking about today, which is take care of yourself in order to take care of others. You also mentioned something I'm writing about in my book, which is raising the next generation. And I know that is a passion of yours too. I'm curious if we could go a little bit off topic and talk about your passion for raising good humans.
Yeah, I mean, I think that For me, in all these, especially with sustainability, I believe that we have a mandate to leave the world a better place than we made it for the next generation. And sometimes we are so overwhelmed with the magnitude of that task that we forget that the easiest, lowest hanging fruit is your immediate family, is the next generation that you have an impact over, or you have an opportunity to pour into. And so, like you said, I am very family oriented, and I feel like that is the first place you've been called. And so that is the lowest hanging fruit you have in this whole arduous task of changing the world. If you can raise your kids, and I don't believe in either a right or wrong way, if you can pour in your best, then your best is good enough. And I think that is how I see it. Like, what is the best you can do for those that are counting on you to become better humans? And sometimes going down that route, you might not necessarily have all the answers, but with that mission of trying to do your best, then you will be willing and ready to look for other resources that can put them on a pedestal for a better future ahead. And I think that is the onus on anybody who is responsible for keeping anybody alive.
Yeah.
I always say my one task is to make sure you are alive and you are well, and that is all I'm being asked. And so, yeah, just making sure that it's an opportunity, it's an opportunity given. So making sure that you take that opportunity to pour into that next generation. And all you are asked is just doing your best. And sometimes your best could be at 1,000 points, and sometimes your best will just be showing up that morning. And that is good enough if that's your best. Yeah.
Wow, Queen. And I can tell that you had people pour into you, because you just have the energy and the vibration that is felt through this message today for audio listening. And I am so excited for the impact that you're making and you have made, both in your own home as well as in your community. Can you tell me a little bit about where people might be able to find your work? Because I think you're in the PBD Essex as well in Salem, Massachusetts.
Yes. So primarily, I work from my studio in Lowell, Massachusetts, from the Western Avenue studios. So there's a Queen Adeline studio at the Western Avenue studios in Lowell, Massachusetts. You can find me there. You can shop there. I do have open studios every first Saturday of the month from 12 to 5 p.m. So if you are local and you want to come see where all the joy and happiness resides, you're welcome to come visit me. You can also shop me online at www.queenadelinecollection.com. And you're welcome to shop ready-to-wear pieces, book an appointment to come in to the studio through there, and also just to reach out for any other customized orders or just to contact. And then I do also have the Queen Adeline Boutique at the PBD Museum store in Salem, Massachusetts, and it's a great place to be. And so if you are in that area and you are at the museum, it's a great museum. I love that museum as well. And so you can also pick up a Queen Adeline piece from the PBD Museum store in Salem, Massachusetts as well.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that there are folks out there like the PBD Essex Museum that can find such important work that you're doing and collaborate with you and really recognize the work that you're doing. And I have visited the West New Studios in Lowell. That's not far from my house,
Yes.
and it is a wonderful maker space for a lot of artists. and it is a wonderful studio to visit. So I do encourage our listeners to pop over there if they're local, as well as find you online. I do ask a very important question to me, to my guests, as one of my final questions, and that is, what is your vision for a better world? And the reason why I asked this question is because you're doing such important work, and I want to know how you see yourself as being a member of this important work we're doing in making the world a better place, and what your hope is in the work that you're doing to make the world a better place.
My vision for a better world is a world in which our children have a great start in life, where they have an earth that is equitable, not just socially, economically, but also environmentally as well, where they can be their best selves and they can rise to their fullest potential. And so for sustainability or sustainable development, it's is the topmost priority for me, a world where and here's where I go into the UN Sustainable Development Goals, where there are three that are really very important to me, where there is responsible consumption, production and consumption. That's where my work comes in, because we are gearing towards a world that is so consumer driven that we are not thinking about the repercussions of how we are consuming. And so a world where we would responsibly consume and we would responsibly produce so that everybody can live equitably. And I always say to people, especially with climate action or climate justice, I always say, what is the point in saving the planet if by the time we save the planet, all the people are dead on the planet? And so alongside climate activism, I believe that there is work for economic justice, and there is room for diversity, equity, and inclusion in all the things that we do, so that there is balance, so that socially, economically, and environmentally, we are balanced to leave our children a better world. So that is my vision for the future, a world where the communities are sustained, so that everybody can bring their full self and their whole self in contributing to this better world.
Well, Queen, you are just so beautiful inside and out. And I love everything we talked about today. It really, was a wonderful story of someone who overcame so much and followed her passion and is making a difference today, yesterday, and tomorrow. You are the epitome of a philanthropist, in my opinion. Under-recognized, and I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity to interview you and share your story. And I want to thank you so much for coming on today. And if you could just remind my listeners how to find you one more time.
Thank you, Jen. I'm very honored to be on your podcast today. And I also just wanted to say this work you're doing is very important. Thank you for following your passion and for being generous enough to bring us along with you. Thank you. And so for everybody listening, if you're looking to wear wearable art that is vibrant, that brings you alive, you can visit me online at Queen Adeline collection.com. On Instagram is at Queen Adeline Collection. On Facebook, same, at Queen Adeline Collection. And you can visit Queen Adeline Boutique at the PBDX's Museum Store in Salem, Massachusetts. You can also visit the Queen Adeline Studio at the Western Avenue Studios in Lowell, Massachusetts. And I look forward to seeing you or encountering any of you on any of the social media platforms. And on LinkedIn, it's Queen Allotey-Pappoe. On LinkedIn, and Queen Adeline is also on LinkedIn. So there are so many multiple ways to touch base. And if you come through, just remind me that you are coming through from Jen Klein's You Are a Philanthropist podcast.
Thank you so much, Queen. And I keep all my show notes on my website. So I'll have those social links available if my listeners would like to go to my website. So thank you once again, Queen. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Same here. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.